right. Hey, I think YouTube's live over there, and I think Facebook is live over here. So, this is one of the daily, basically live streams that I'm doing for this week, and I think I'm getting a little better with setting these things up. Hopefully, the audio's good. Today, I'm going to talk about, of course, why I interviewed for a job. I see uh, Peter Minator. Hey, what's up? Now, if you're just joining up, thank you. I appreciate it. Can you, let me know that you could hear me? Cool. Thanks, Peter. The audio is good. Pritam, loud and clear. Awesome. Thanks. Good to have you. Where are you folks from? And also, if you are watching the replay, you could also let me know where you're from or ask questions as we go. So I know it takes a minute or two for people to join up, so I'll just fill some time right now. And Peter's from Hungary. Nice. Awesome. Very cool. And like I said, we will be talking about why I interviewed for a job. David's there. Ashad is there. Doing well today. Doing pretty good. I was going to say I got out today for a nice walk. It's getting warm here. Emil, what's up? Good to have you. Leo, how's it going, man? Good to see you on. Yeah, 2 days in a row. We're gonna try and keep it up at least for the week and see if more people like keep joining each time. And if that happens, then I'll probably keep I'll probably keep doing it next week too. But we will see how it goes. It is interesting to note there are more people that usually attend on YouTube than on Facebook. So I have a feeling it's like the Facebook algorithm tweaking what people are actually like being shown in their feed. Also, I mean, I'm doing this live, so it's harder for people to, make time for it and stuff. You only get a notification like just as it's happening. But it is interesting. There is more, seems to be more people on the YouTube side. David mentions YouTube pushes a notification to you, which I I I did know that was possible. And honestly, whenever I get notifications, it's usually like overwhelming. So I try and like keep it reduced. I'm gonna see Fahad over there, and maybe over here too. If you're watching two places, that's pretty cool. I like the support. Okay, and today I'm gonna mention why and talk about why I interviewed for a job recently. If you're just joining, this is what I'm gonna talk about. And the reason why I interviewed, I'm gonna talk about that. So, and this is pretty. I'll set the stage a little bit. So I've been working, online for about 4 years, about 4 years. But basically, the last almost 2 years, just about 2 years, I've been doing this full time, mainly because I got laid off. And the first year that you're trying to run a business and launch, I guess a course and do work with my affiliate sites, things are kind of rocky. Like I'm not sure where, or at the time I wasn't sure, which area would be like the best area for me to spend time in. It's probably the best way to say it. So I would sort of split my time across many different things, and I had ups and downs, but basically over the last year or so, I've been not only making consistent money with like Niche Site Project as a blog, but also with my Amazon affiliate sites. And that was basically, even now, that's like the bulk of the revenue that I make. And, my income is mostly from Amazon affiliate sites. So, and by the way, if you're just joining, I'm talking about why I interviewed for a job recently. You know what? I keep forgetting to introduce myself. I'm Doug Cunnington from Niche Site Project. Although if you're watching this, you probably already know because you're subscribed to the channel or something like that. So anyway, if you are joining, you're watching the replay, feel free to ask questions in the comments, both on YouTube and on Facebook. I'm simulcasting in two places, just testing out what's better. By the way, I'm doing this all this week, and so this is Tuesday, so a few more days, and I think it's been going pretty well. So we are talking about why I interviewed for a job. So basically, I'm making more money than I did in my last job, which was a good job, currently. However, in the last, I guess it was about 6 weeks ago, I interviewed for a job, and it was actually a local job, in Bozeman here. And there's not, it's a smaller town than where I'm from in Atlanta. Bozeman only has like between like 40 and 50,000 people, and Atlanta had, over 6 million or so if you consider the whole metro area. One, there's a lot of traffic in Atlanta. That's one of the results. The other thing that happens is there's a lot of jobs because there's a lot of companies in Atlanta. In Bozeman, there's not that many jobs because there's not that many companies and there's fewer people. So jobs are few and far between. However, this particular job was a reasonable, salary, and I see John from the Lone Star State. Welcome. So basically, this job was for an internet marketing manager position, and it was at the university at MSU, Montana State University. They published the salary online, so I could just tell you it was between 80 and 85,000 per year, which is less than what I was making before, but that is a good salary for here, and it's a good salary for the university. Additionally, the university has great benefits. But that's not the main reason why I was looking at the job. So I do realize if I am I'm working for myself, I can create my own schedule. I work when I want for as long as I want, and I figure out what I want to prioritize, and I don't spend time in meetings. If I don't want to work with someone, I just don't work with them. So that's kind of nice. I know one of the big headaches with working, at a regular corporate job is you're stuck in meetings, and there's a ton of people, not necessarily, but a lot of times there's people that you need to work with that you don't really want to work with. They have different priorities. Maybe they're not, trying to give you a hard time, but it ends up being unpleasant. And I'm not only familiar with that because I had, positions in corporations where that exactly happened, but a lot of people that I know still have those jobs, and it's kind of universal. Like if you work in, IT, if you work in retail, if you work in the healthcare system, if you're a public servant, police, fire, nursing, doctors, whatever. Like there's there's always people that are not as fun to work with. We'll say it that way. Okay, so I'll get to the punchline. The reason why I interviewed is because even though I am working for myself, I do know that like the timeline of what I want to accomplish is like not, 12 months, it's not 18 months, it's like 5 years, 10 years. And when I looked at the actual position, there's a company called TechLink, by the way. So when I looked at the actual position, it sounded kind of interesting, but the main thing was most of the people that I was going to work with were super well educated, and they were sort of like A players, and a lot of them had diverse skill sets, and they came from many different industries just because of the nature of the specific company. And they came together, TechLink here, and basically the people that I interviewed, just as an example, the people that I interviewed with, I think two of them were PhDs. One was a retired Air Force, I'm not sure what rank, but an Air Force officer. So he was retired. And then someone with a journalistic background that was like super well qualified for, communications director, which was the role that she had. So the point is, when I looked at, areas where I could learn, I thought, well, there's a place where there's probably a lot of gaps in like my knowledge, and to work with people that are very good would make me better, and it would help me, grow and improve my skills. One, the other part is it's a brand new role, right? It's a brand new role for an internet marketing manager, and it literally would have been a blank slate, a platform for me to implement what I know about, social media, content marketing, and SEO. They literally have nothing. They were relaunching a website, and I interviewed on the phone, which was it was a panel interview actually, so it was a little bit tough. Panel interview over the phone. So I talked to 4 people on the phone. They had, I think it was like 8 specific, set questions that they had to ask every single one of the people they interviewed, which is interesting because I've interviewed probably a little over 100 people from my corporate career, and most of those didn't have a set, like a set of questions that were standard. It was like ad hoc. There were different people interviewing, and each interview was a little bit different. It was very sloppy. I didn't like the way we were doing it, but that was the culture at that particular time at that company on that team. These questions, though, because it's through the university, the hiring committee had to submit the questions to the university HR. The questions had to be approved, and the questions during the first interview all had to be the same to every single person. And I think for the second interview, which I'll talk about in a second, they also had to be all the same. So if you're just joining, by the way, or if you're watching in the replay, feel free to ask questions. I'm going to scroll through as I do at the end of, or once I finish talking. I'll scroll through and look through questions and stuff like that. Just curious, who has a corporate job right now, or who's, I guess, interviewed recently, since we're talking about why I interviewed, who's interviewed recently. And you can just type your answer in the chat. So they asked me about 8 questions. Some of them were fairly straightforward, like what's your best quality, what's your worst quality, questions that you hear about a lot. And then others were, what's your favorite marketing conference that you've been to? I didn't really have a good answer, which was too bad, but I wasn't looking at, or I wasn't thinking they would ask me that, and I just happened to not have attended any concert or conferences. So I couldn't really answer that one very well, but I made it through. So I did good enough through the interview, the first screening interview, that they called me up to offer me an in-person interview. Again, it was a panel interview, and it was probably the longest, most difficult interview I've ever had. So 4 people, the same 4 people that I spoke to, interviewed me again. It was a whole different set of questions, and it was a 3-hour interview on a Friday afternoon. So I've been through a couple panel interviews. I think right out of college, I went to a couple panel interviews, but it wasn't like this. So it was like 2, maybe 3 people, 1 extra person bounced in back in the day. But in this one, it was 4 people for the 3 hours. And the big kicker is they wanted me to give a marketing presentation, which I've never done that before. I mean, I've only done internet marketing for myself, and a lot of it's, sitting behind a laptop, and, at most I'm doing some copywriting, and it's very, you're not in front of people. You don't have to, speak publicly and deal with the questions. So they gave me some material to draw from, and gave me some specific questions. And I, actually spent a lot of time. This was just before my last course launch in April. So I guess it was leading up to the course launch in April. And I needed to be working on the course launch material, but I had this homework assignment to put together a presentation. So I put together a PowerPoint, and went through it a couple times to make sure that it would last the proper amount of time, which I think, I can't remember, it was like 30 minutes. It needed to be 30 minutes, and then there was going to be a period of questions that they would ask. We go back and forth. So I needed to have a 30-minute presentation, which is kind of a long time. If you haven't given a presentation like that, 30 minutes is a decent chunk, and you don't know, like, you can't just wing it, right? I couldn't have, wrote it and then actually these sessions, right? You could tell I'm coming up with it on the fly. Like, I know what I was going to talk about today, and I have the thoughts like loosely organized. But if you're doing a presentation, which needs to be a certain amount of time, then you have to go through it and, speak at a normal speed that you would deliver a presentation. So anyway, went through, I actually nailed the presentation. It is, my job is internet marketing, so it wasn't that hard. It was literally the stuff that we talk about in these kind of calls, or if you look at my YouTube channel, it's that kind of stuff. I use SEMrush to pull some information. I, looked at keyword research and I outlined a plan. Plus, the interesting thing is, because I have a project management background, I was able to put together sort of like schedules and loose metrics to measure things, because that's just in my background versus, someone who is more of a, say, like a writer. Maybe they're a content marketer, and, they maybe don't look at milestones and like project plans in the same way that I do, which, to me, it's like, you got to have that part. So anyway, went through the interview. I think I did really well. They asked a lot of questions, and, I was able to answer. I know a lot of times in interviews, you get some odd questions, or you get questions that stump you, things you didn't think about. This was the best interview I've ever done. They'd ask me a question, I'd think for a second, I'd answer. One other thing, going back to the part where I mentioned, running through the presentation to make sure I finished in, the right amount of time. People often, when they present, they rush through it. They talk too fast. They don't take pauses. I was really conscious of it, and I think probably doing these webinars, I end up doing better pausing and taking my time as I'm speaking. And funny thing, YouTube, it looks like you're doing well. Facebook, for some reason, I lost the feed for a second, so hopefully you come back and there's not a big delay there. Okay, so anyway, finishing my story. Interviewed. Turns out I didn't get the offer, which was fine, because I was on the fence anyway. I wasn't sure if I would take the position if they offered it to me. There's a certain amount that I could learn. There's a certain amount where I could like implement something for a brand new, position, a brand new website that they were launching. And essentially they had no like web presence, a social media presence. They had very little web presence. It was, this was like a static HTML website from like way, way back, and they migrated over to WordPress. So anyway, I didn't get the offer. It's always disappointed when you're rejected, like even if you don't want to be like part of the organization, if you don't get the offer, it's a little sad. As I mentioned, there was a strong chance I was probably not going to take the gig anyway, but nevertheless, I didn't get it. I didn't have to make the decision, which is good. It's tough to try and make a decision like that. And I think that is just about the conclusion of the story. Funny thing is, I'm trying to think how much I could reveal. I've actually made a contact because I interviewed with the company. I met someone who's into internet marketing locally here, which is very cool. So it's sort of a kindred spirit. Like, he gets what I'm doing online, and I understand what he's doing. So it's kind of cool that I was able to make the connection, because I wouldn't have met him otherwise. Additionally, I haven't reached out to the person that actually got the position, But she's on LinkedIn, so all I need to do is, connect with her, and I'm interested to see how her plan differed from mine. Very, I expect she had, a totally different take on how to approach it. So kind of interesting, but if I will go back to the main point and why I interviewed for a job even though I didn't have to. The main thing is I interviewed because I thought I could learn something new that I couldn't learn on my own and that I would be surrounded by smart people. So that is the main thing. I thought I could learn something and I thought I'd be around some pretty smart people. So I see there's not any questions over on the Facebook side, but if you have any over there, let me know. If you're watching on the Facebook side, if you're watching the replay, let me know where you're from. If you do have questions, I am going to come back and answer those questions later. On the YouTube side, I saw there was a lot of chatting over here, so I'm going to try and take a look and see what's up. There's actually a whole lot going on over here. So cool. Thanks, people, for joining. Yep, I am going to try and make this a daily thing as long as people show up. I hope there's like an increasing number of people that show up, but we'll see how it goes. And it does help. I think I mentioned it before. It does help if you like and or comment and stuff like that. So everybody on YouTube, really good job doing that. And I see, all right, going through. And Fahid asks, am I streaming with two different cameras? Yeah, so, and I think someone mentioned, so I got YouTube on my phone and I got my laptop working on Facebook. All right, so people are watching on two different devices, very fun. John from Texas, awesome. And then, let's see, thanks, Fruit is Life. Hopefully the channel will be growing bigger. Oh yeah, okay. And David's talking about a good job interview. A lot of people don't know how to give a good interview. It's really true. Um, and yeah, the public speaking, I'm really gonna try and work on that. Doing all these helps, but to actually present in front of people live is a skill that I haven't developed much, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to more. And Fruit is Life, yeah. So the whole job was internet marketing, and it is something that I'm passionate about, and I know the stuff really well. So it's much easier to go through a presentation when you know what you're talking about, and then you're confident about it too. So if they asked me a question, I knew that I knew the answer, or I knew that it wasn't. Sometimes it's not a good question, but I could handle that diplomatically. And then Fruit is Life. Yep, the reason why you're thinking about getting a job is to learn. Yeah, if you can get a job where, the apprenticeship model makes sense for a lot of reasons. I have a couple people that I work with occasionally who are, I'm super selective about people that I apprentice to the level that I don't solicit it at all. I'll only ask people that I want to work with. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But they're able to learn a lot working with me. So yep. And then David says, I like your story. I can relate to it. I have some insight on the matter. Corporate marketing jobs and all, if it's something that interests you. Yeah, cool. Thanks, David. And I see Leo asked a question over here. So since, and this is referring to the person that got the job, not me. So since you've seen her in LinkedIn, did she come from a corporate background? Do you think running your own business hurt your chances? I know a lot of people don't like hiring someone who has been a founder. Super insightful, Leo. I think you're exactly right. So, number one, did she come from a corporate background? Sort of. You know what? I can't remember everything. I think she's actually like an English major or a journalist or yeah, journalism major, and I think she may have had an odd job here or there, but then started doing content writing for a web design company, and then started doing SEO work for this web company, basically a web developer website company. So they would just like set up sites for companies, and she was doing some SEO work there. I think her she didn't have a super strong corporate background compared to mine, because like I have a pretty good corporate background, but I think the person um, the person who the communications director was a journalist, like worked at a newspaper for like decades, and I think the internet marketing manager would most closely work with that internet marketing, or sorry, with that communications director. So I think the journalist had a she weighted the English major and maybe the journalism more. I'm totally speculating, by the way. I have no idea, but I have a feeling, right? Because I don't have that sort of writing and journalism background. I have an engineering background and a marketing background that I just created on myself. Sorry, the garbage truck is driving by. I'm not sure I can do much about it, so it's going to be loud for a second. Um, then the second part is, yes. Do I think running? Do you think running your own business hurt your chances? I think so, because a lot of my answers were around, oh, I'm launching my course right now, or and I would give an example, or they would say, describe a successful marketing campaign, and I would say, hey, I've been doing webinars every week for 12 weeks, and the results were good. I have better engagement with my readers and my audience, and more people are following me now. People are reading the blog, and everyone's getting more value out of it. So everything that I answered was really related to like my own work. So Leo, I think you're 100% right. If they were comparing someone who like needed the job more and like wanted the job a little bit, like I mean, they probably picked the person that was like a little hungrier. I mean, for me, it represented a pretty significant like pay cut when you consider my previous job. It's something like a 20-25% pay cut, and then you know I didn't have to tell them what I make now, but they probably you know they probably would have been like, well, this guy doesn't have to work here. Like what motivation does he have? And they're exactly right. I mean, at the point where I don't need the job, it certainly changes your motivation. I think it probably like helps things if you're like, wow, you don't need to do that stuff. So anyway, Leo, good question as always. And I'm gonna scroll down, and I see we're coming up on 30 minutes, so I need to probably get rolling here. Fahid asked an unrelated question. Okay, so we'll see what's up. I'm getting 50 to 60 U.S. visitors to my review/best product pages, but not getting any sales. Is that a bit odd, or am I being paranoid and expect sales at much higher traffic? I would say I need more information. So maybe we hold it for another day, but I'll make some assumptions about your question to tell some useful information right now. So 50 to 60 U.S. visitors per day to a specific, to various product pages is pretty decent. My threshold is about 100 per day, so plus or minus 25. So you're looking at around 100 per day. If you get 100 visitors per day to your site, you probably should be making like 1 to 2 sales per day. Okay, so if you get about 100 visitors, you should be making like 1 to 2 sales of products per day. However, it all depends on your keywords, right? So I don't know. It depends on the keywords that are bringing in traffic to your site. So they must be buyer oriented. If you're getting some of your traffic from social, those don't count. Social doesn't count for that, 100 that I mentioned to you. But all else being equal, making some assumptions that you are doing exactly what I would do, I would say you probably should be making like one sale every 3 to 4 days or so, and work on getting that level of about 100 visitors per day, hopefully to one page, right? That's where the real magic happens. If you get 100 visitors per day to a specific page, you should be making, 1 to 2 sales per day. If the product price point is somewhere between like 50 and 125, you probably should be making about $100 a month. Okay, so I'm making a lot of assumptions, but that's kind of like my rough estimate. Okay. And Mebrick, something about like learning management before they tried it on their own. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Hold on, let me go back through here. Matt says jobs are good for learning management in a real life situation. All businesses hit a plateau, and you'll need to know how to delegate and manage different types of people. Matt, yeah, I can't agree more. And Fruit is Life, do I know any affiliate marketers like you offering some kind of internship in Europe? No, I sure don't. I sure don't. But one thing I'll mention is occasionally some people will put out applications that they're hiring an apprentice. One of my friends just did. And it's like, a 6-month apprenticeship. There was a lot of interviewing and stuff, like on site. They worked together for a little while, like in person. So they're out there. But I would say that that's more rare. I think, for someone to spend the time to like train an intern, they're gonna need to be making probably multiple 6 figures. So there's not a ton of us out there doing that. So there's not as many. However, if you do look around, I would say, even though I try to stay out of Facebook groups, to be honest with you, if you go to Facebook groups and you do some networking there, you may be able to get to line something up for yourself. All right, let's see. Okay. All right, we're getting close here. Yeah, good comments, Matt, by the way. Okay, work at a bike factory. Okay. What about every major Fortune 500 CEO who makes 100 times your income has 100 times more control than you and worked up the ladder, but they don't want to spend the time being an entrepreneur. They're doing what they like, I suppose. Yeah, good conversation over there. I was going to say, like, I have some friends, and I know some people listening on the call right now. Like, I have some friends who, like, they stuck with a corporate gig. They worked their way up the ladder. Turns out they hate their job, but they unfortunately make too much money now, so they won't quit, and I don't think they can quit unless they want to move into a much smaller home. So there's a big part of it where, like, my wife and I, we moved into basically a starter home. It's a 2-bedroom townhouse, and it's like we could afford other places, right? But we don't need much more. And if you buy a bigger place, you have to buy more furniture. There's more upkeep, and then there's just more stuff. I have like a 12. It's a decade old truck it's been paid for like years, right? It's been paid for like 6 years, 7 years, and I bought it used then. So like, we all make choices, but I was gonna say the assumption that people like what they do, especially in those high stress jobs, they're usually still getting like jerked around, even if they're a high level executive. Okay, let's see, what else do we got here. Yep, David, same time tomorrow, all week, same time. We're going to do it. And tomorrow the topic will be, I think we'll do why scaling guest posting is going to be different in the future. This is just a speculation thing on my part, but that's the topic tomorrow. Um, and then Tarakwal says, from Bangladesh, what's up, man? Thank you for joining. You noticed all my webinars, so you want to watch all of them in the future. Thanks. That's super nice. Yeah, check them out. They're all free out there on YouTube. And if you do me a favor, Tarakwal, like if you like comment, like them, and share them, that'll really help me out. So I'd appreciate it if you do that. If you love being an entrepreneur and want to be one, how does getting a job make any sense? It's a philosophical question, you know. When I was interviewing for the job, I thought to myself, I could probably learn a lot if I worked there for about 12 to 18 months. And I think most jobs that I've had in the past, that's kind of the threshold. It depends on the workflow and how fast you're able to do things, implement, and learn. But if you think about it, think back to jobs that you've had. You pop in, there's probably 4 to 6 weeks of it's all new material. You're learning, I guess, just new stuff in a new environment. There's new people. Um, there's new politics to deal with. After you figure that part out, you have, a stretch of time where you can implement, get that feedback, implement again, and learn. And then after that, unless your role changes, I think like 12 to 18 months may be sort of a threshold depending on the gig, right? So it could change a little bit. Leo, what do you think, by the way, on what I just said, if you're able to hear that? Like the 12 to 18 months to learn something. All right, let's see. Lots of questions. I like this. All right. Oh, and then the other part about getting a job, if you want to be an entrepreneur and or you like being an entrepreneur, we all have gaps in what we understand and know how to do. And my thought was, if my timeline to be an entrepreneur is like 35 years, if I take a year and a half to learn something, that's not much if I want to be an entrepreneur for a really long time. In fact, it's like such a small trade-off that it's a no-brainer. If there's some gap in your knowledge, like depending on the timing of things, right? You may be able to go out, get a job, learn what you need to do, and then like when you pair it together with the stuff that you already know, it could be super powerful. Like, like I feel like my project management background coupled with like several other little pieces, it makes me a really like unique combination because not many people have project management experience, internet marketing, and developing courses, right? So it's a kind of a strange combination not many people have. All right, good questions. I like all the comments over here. Awesome. So Matt says, how could you get experience in say, a high volume e-com business without having one yet? Well, I haven't done that specifically, but I would say figure out a way in the door and then you can work your way up. If you have the chops, like you'll be able to work your way up. Another topic, I don't have it on my list for this week, but another topic that we may cover is someone who is actually like interning / apprenticing with me right now. He sent me some emails and I don't even think he had like a formula on what he was doing. He was just sending me some results of things that he implemented that he learned from me. So he did this a few times. And then I just straight up, he didn't ask to work for me, but I straight up asked him if he wanted to work for me because he was able to do things that basically I needed someone that had his skills and he was just on the cusp. Like he wasn't like shattering any records or anything, but he was doing just the right amount of stuff. And I was like, this dude's taking action. Like I want that guy on my team, and I know he's not going to stay with me for that long because he's smart enough to like have implemented things quickly. So he's learning really fast because he's implementing, adapting, changing. And I know at some point, like I'm having him work on a specific set of stuff, and I'll check in with him. When he has learned what he needs to learn from me, I expect him to go find a better gig, or he'll be working for himself most likely. All right, as we're going through, and Leo answered back. He says he totally agrees. I'm always looking to either move positions in the same company or change organizations in 18 months. Never went more than 2 years without a promotion or a move. Brilliant, and I saw, like I stayed in my job for like 9 years, and basically I should have moved after about 2 years, just like you said. I mean, there wasn't room. It was sort of a contracting organization who was always answering to another sort of department, and I wasn't learning anything there, but I stayed because it was easier. So to the point earlier, basically, if you're sticking in one, if you think you can learn something by getting a job, it could be really a smart move to go somewhere and learn on someone else's dollar, and you get the networking advantage by meeting people that you're working with in that industry. So my phone's about to die, so that's telling me that I need to finish it up. So I'm going to see if there's any other questions, and which there are. Awesome, folks. I'll come back and answer them later, but my phone's going to die. And Matt mentions you like scaling quickly, and I was going to say, as a contrarian, I'm like, oh, you don't want to scale too fast. A lot of people get in trouble scaling too fast, or at least I did. If you do it right, then it can work all right. And how did I find out about my apprentice? He was a follower. He showed up on probably some webinars and stuff, asked me questions, sent me results afterwards, and honestly, it was the results. You show someone results, and I mean, that gets attention. Off-page SEO plan, Matt, I sure do. There's a webinar on it. There's something like an hour or 90 minutes of that material. Go to the YouTube page, which you're probably there, or you know how to get to it, and just look for the off-page SEO. Okay, cool. Everyone, this has been a really good session. I'm going to do it again tomorrow, and then on Thursday, and then again on Friday. So if you can, attend again. Even better, be sure you like, thumbs up, and comment. If you have the ability to share the fact that I'm doing these sessions with someone that would find it useful and helpful, of course, please share it with them. That's why I'm doing it, is to try and get more people in the ecosystem and more people on the email list. And I can just tell you straight up, I'm trying to get more people on the email list. But I hope and I think the material that I'm presenting is valuable. So, all right, my phone's going to die, so I have to go. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to click finish over here and see ya.